Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, Feast Week has arrived. This is one of my favorite weeks of the college basketball season because we are going to have nonstop, wall-to-wall college basketball on TV all day long. A lot of good matchups, a lot of good teams, a lot of good events, and we are here to break it all down. Here on today's episode, we're going to tell you about the Monday, November 24th slate of DraftKings DFS for college basketball. This will also help you out if you're looking to bet props or bet sides and totals in these games, but we're mainly focusing on the games that are on the DraftKings slates. We are going to be going over the early slate as well as the night slate. So if you are just here for the night slate, check the time codes on YouTube or on the audio, and you can go ahead and fast forward to that. But we're going to break down all 13 games that are on the DraftKings slates here today. And a big reason why is because with this being the start of Feast Week, right, you're going to get a lot of these teams in action Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even Thursday, right? So because you're going to see these teams again and again and again, I think it's important that we do our best here in this episode to tell you about all the teams that are in action, as well as all the players on these teams. And we're going to try to do it as efficiently as possible. And a big reason why is because with DraftKings, the way that it works on Feast Week, sometimes you have these really quick turnarounds and the algorithm can't really keep up. So a guy might have a really bad game and just really drop in price, or a really good game and not change in price at all. You just never know what's going to happen with the pricing. But if you have a solid baseline knowledge of all these teams and all these players, it'll really help you going forward for the rest of the week. Now, while you're here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of our content all the way through the Final Four of the rest of college basketball season, as well as all of our college football content that is going to be coming your way here on Rivalry Weekend and through the rest of the college football playoff as well. All right, without further ado, we got 13 games to break down. Whew, this is going to be a long one, boys. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so game number one on the early slate is Rutgers taking on Tennessee. This one is in Las Vegas at the Players Era event. And can I make a quick confession? I don't know how the bracket works for the Players Era, right? Like there's 18 teams. That's not a bracket. And they're all scheduled to play 2 games on Monday and Tuesday. That's not a bracket. So I don't really know how they're going to determine the matchups on Wednesday. I don't. But I know that on Monday and Tuesday, we've got some really good teams and some really good matchups, right? So let's go ahead and dive into this first one. Tennessee is projected to win this game 78-64, according to KenPom. That is a total of 142 points. Y'all, quick full disclosure, like with this still being super early in the season, we're at a point where I'm not using like all the KenPom metrics, like the efficiency, like the rebound rates and stuff like that for teams, and tempo for teams, just because so many of these teams have not played like any real legitimate competition yet, that it just becomes really difficult to kind of gauge where they are as a team. And I've always said that KenPom gets really accurate after Thanksgiving. So I'm definitely going by the point totals, right? But definitely for the more like finer stuff, probably not looking as much at KenPom when it comes to the team level stuff. I do think at an individual level, when it comes to usage and shot rate and rebound rate and stuff like that, it definitely has a lot of effectiveness. All right. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the Tennessee Volunteers. So Tennessee, I got to be honest, y'all, they have not played a serious opponent yet, which makes it really hard to determine what they're going to do with their rotation and with their usage here in this game. I've forever said early in the season in college basketball, hey, look at the comparable opponents to what they're going to be playing. That'll give you a vibe as to who's going to get the minutes, who's going to get the usage. Can't really do that with Tennessee. They've not played anyone serious yet this season. But their starting lineup in their last game was Jacoby Gillespie, Amari Abram, Nate Emmett, Cade Phillips, and Felix Okpara. JP Estrella is already listed as out for this game. He does play forward for them. He does play about 20 minutes a game on a normal workload. So that is a little bit of news. Cade Phillips is listed as questionable for this game. I don't really quite know what to make of that because he played full minutes last game. He does have an illness, so maybe he does play, but maybe that reduces his minute workload a little bit, right? He's always been an effective per minute player, just hasn't really ever seen big time minutes in his college career. All right, now let's talk about the guys that are playing big time for them. So Nate Emmett, I think I'm saying that correctly. I haven't watched a Tennessee game with sound on this season because, like I said, they haven't played anyone serious. He is a superstar freshman for them, leads the team with 31% usage. We've seen him over 36 DraftKings points in each of the last 4 games, and he has done so with only playing above 25 minutes in one of them. I think it's highly likely that he gives you a pretty good performance here. $8,700, very reasonable price tag. I think he's one of the best pay-up options on the slate, point blank. Jacoby Gillespie, I do have a lot of interest in as well. I think if you're looking to stack up multiple Tennessee players, it makes a lot of sense to play Gillespie. 26% usage on the season, 36% or 33% assist rate, excuse me. He's been over 32 DraftKings points in each of the last 4. This is a little bit of an underprice to me. I think he's a really good spot at 7,400. If he plays full minutes, Tennessee scores a lot of points. It's quite likely he's going to put up a lot of DraftKings points. And then you got to have a little interest in Felix Okpara. He's not a big-time part of the offense, but they are showing that they're going to play him extended minutes if these forwards are going to continue to be injured. He's a guy that can really rack up rebounds and block shots at 5,300. And then Jalen Carey is probably going to play a little bit more minutes if Phillips may or may not be able to go, but definitely without Estrella. So he's only 4,300. Got to have a little interest in him as well. And then Amari Abram, I feel like he's bounced all over the place in college basketball. A little bit up and down, but like he's only 3,900. He's a guy that's going to start. What if he plays 30 plus minutes? He could probably absolutely smash that price tag. All right, next up, let's talk about Rutgers. So Rutgers had a lot to replace from last season, right? When you lose 2 NBA draft picks as well as a few other guys to the portal, you're going to be really looking to replace, right? Their starting lineup is Tyreek Francis, Jamichael Davis, Dennis Badilau, Dylan Grant, and Emmanuel Ogbole. All right, so let's and then also Darren Buchanan, the George Washington transfer, leads the team in bench minutes. He's a pretty high usage player, but I don't really trust it completely. At 4,100 against Tennessee, Tennessee is a team that is going to slow you down and grind you out. They're really good defensively. Dylan Grant might be worth a look, though. He leads the team with usage around 29%, combined 29% rebound rate. You look at the games that they've won, he's been pretty good in. The game that they got really stifled against Central Connecticut, he was really bad in. So I think there's a kind of a wide range of outcomes. He's not going to be a core player or anything like that, but maybe he's a guy you could consider just because how much he's going to have the ball in his hands. Tyreek Francis is the point guard, 24% usage, 28% shot, 24% assist rate. That's pretty solid, y'all. And he's only $5,300. I'm definitely here for him. He's probably going to make my player pool here on this slate. And then Dennis Badilau is your AJ Store vintage, all I do is score type of player. Doesn't really put up a lot of peripherals at all, but he does have a 24% shot rate. At 5,200, that's not really my cup of tea. I was all over him when he was on a slate earlier this season when he was like 3,900, but now he's that's a little bit rich for my blood. All right, next up, we've got Creighton taking on Baylor. This is another matchup in the Players Era tournament. Baylor's projected to win this one 80-76, according to KenPom. That's a total of 156 points. That is one of the higher totals on the slate. Let's talk about Creighton. So Creighton has played one serious game against Gonzaga, and they lost that game by about 30 points. So it's really hard to go by that for what their rotations are going to be. But this is a team that in the Greg McDermott era is notorious for running their starters in the ground and not really playing much of a bench. So they have that going for them. The starters have been Nick Graves, Josh Dix, Blake Harper, Jackson McAndrew. I can't find him. Oh, he's out for this game. Jackson McAndrew was the 4th starter. Oh, he's out for the season. Okay. So it'll probably be Jason Green that starts in that spot, I would guess. Yeah, Jason Green, 5,500. That would be my guess. And then the 5-man is Owen Freeman. So basically, they're going up against Baylor. Baylor is not a big team. Baylor does not have a lot of size. I think Owen Freeman, $7,700, could have a pretty solid game. He's played 4 games with the exception of the Gonzaga game. He's been over 27 DraftKings points every time. I think he's worth a look. The other 2 guys I'd have a little bit of interest in, Graves and Harper, both have above 22% usage rate. Graves is the point guard. He is a transfer from the Charlotte 49ers. I think he's like a legitimate dude, like he's a legitimately good player. And then Blake Harper, freshman, they like him a lot. Big-time game against North Dakota last time out. And then maybe you could consider Jason Green if you think he gets the bump from McAndrew's injury. Like I said, it did not occur to me when I was looking box scores that McAndrew got hurt because he's played in every game, just didn't finish the last one. All right, next up, we've got Baylor. So Baylor's an interesting one, y'all. There's a lot going on here. They played one serious game. It was against Washington. So look at that stat line if you're looking, right? Their starting lineup is Obi Abum, Cameron Carr, Dan Skillings, Tunde Yesufu, and then Michael Rataj. What you'll notice is all five of those guys are listed as guards on DraftKings. Michael Rataj was the starting 4/5 for Oregon State last season. I don't know why he's listed as a guard. I really don't. He's only $4,800. He's a good player. I'm definitely interested in him as one of my value plays here in this slate, especially considering this game has one of the highest totals. Dan Skillings, one of the favorites of the Fantasy Corner Discord. He's just a guy that knows how to fill up a stat sheet, and sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. Wide range of outcomes guy, definitely a guy that could give you a GPP winning stat line. And then Tonde Yusufu, let's talk about him. He's a freshman. He's the overall team usage leader at 28%. His peripheral rates are not that great, but this is a guy that's going to have the ball in his hand a ton. I don't think Creighton really has a natural matchup for him. I think it's a pretty good spot for him at 7,500. And then the guy that everybody's going to play is Cameron Carr, right? He's $5,700. He doesn't do a whole lot in the peripherals, but he can really score the basketball. And when you're averaging 23 points a game and you're only $5,700, that's a pretty good spot to be in. Over 27 DraftKings points in every game he's played so far this season. He's a guy that is going to be super popular. Everybody's going to play him because that is just, quite frankly, a misprice. Next up, we've got Seton Hall taking on NC State. This is the first game in Maui, which I think is quite interesting. The Maui field this year is not as good as it has been in years past. NC State's actually the betting favorite to win the Maui Invitational, and they're projected to win this game 75-67. That's a game total of 142 points. Seton Hall's a really hard team to get a beat on. They have not played a serious opponent yet. They played a ton of bench minutes also, but their starting lineup has been Adam Clark, Mike Williams, AJ Staten McCray, Elijah Fisher, and Stephen Payne. That's kind of been their five, but they play a ton of Tawan Simpkins and Najee Hines off the bench, right? So you're getting a pretty deep rotation. Those seven guys are all going to play a good amount of minutes, right? If I were to use anybody, it'd probably be Adam Clark. He is the point guard. He is the team's just probably their best player, and he has a 33% assist rate. He's not going to take a ton of shots, but you're looking at a ton of assists here. If this game does shoot out, it's likely he gets a lot. Staten McCray is a transfer from Miami. He was not great at Miami, though. I think he's a little overpriced at 6,200. Elijah Fisher, I believe he came from DePaul, has really been trending in the wrong direction as the season gone on. This is a team that they're just really hard to handicap. I think Clark is probably my favorite, but I wouldn't fault you if you just totally full faded Seton Hall here on this slate. NC State, though, is a team that I think you want to target. This is a good basketball team. They did play against VCU last Friday. That was a serious opponent, and you got to see how their usage shook out. Their starting lineup is Trey Holloman, Paul McNeil, Quadir Copeland, Darion Williams, and Van Allen Lubin. They very much lack size. Like we saw last year when North Carolina started Van Allen Lubin at the 5, they just got bullied a lot. And I think that's going to be the case for NC State, but he is in their starting lineup still. He's a good offensive player, but he's not going to give them a whole lot of defensive and rebounding punch. I think he's overpriced at 6,600. What you're seeing is they're playing a ton of Musa Sania off the bench to kind of compensate for that lack of size. He is their big body. He is their best center, in my opinion. Played 27 minutes in that game against VCU. I don't think that Seton Hall is a team that really has a ton of size, so they might not have to play Sania as much. They might be able to get away with Van Allen Lubin at the 5, but Sania is definitely a guy that I'm going to keep on my radar because I think this is a guy that's going to play a ton of minutes when NC State plays somebody big. Now, for the other guys that we know a lot about, their best player, Darion Williams, transfer from Texas Tech. He's the truth. He's the real deal. He can absolutely fill up a stat sheet. I think he's by far their best player. He's a guy that I'm going to be investing heavily in over the course of this season just because I think he's a guy that really can fill up a stat sheet for you. Paul McNeil has been kind of up and down. He's really more of a scorer, not a huge peripheral stat guy. Had a huge rebounding game against VCU out of nowhere, but did not score a bucket in that game. Kind of weird pattern there for McNeil. Not really what you would expect. Quadir Copeland is kind of functioning as the point guard. He's up at $7,100, and he hasn't had a game over 28 DraftKings points so far this season. I think that's a little bit overpriced. Trey Holloman has also been functioning as a point guard. He had the dud game against UNCG. I can't really figure out why that happened, but in every other game, he's been really solid, over 23 DraftKings points in every other game. Definitely a guy I'm looking to be investing in, over a 22% usage rate on the season. And then we got to talk about Terrence Arsenault. So this is a transfer from Houston who is now back this year. He has not played a lot, but he's going to be back. I don't know what his role is going to be. If he were to take away from anybody, it'd probably be McNeil and Copeland. I think he's a wild card heading into this week at $4,300, but that's a good basketball player. He's going to work his way back into this rotation. It's definitely something to monitor moving forward. All right, next up, we've got Notre Dame taking on Kansas. This is in the Players area in Las Vegas. Kansas is favored to win this game 75-69. That is a total of 144 points. That's not super high, right? Notre Dame, they played one serious game against Ohio State, which they lost. Their starting lineup is Marcus Burton, Braden Shrewsbury. Let me make sure I say this correctly. Jalen Harrelson. I believe that is pronounced like Woody Harrelson, as in White Man Can't Jump, Woody Harrelson. Carson Tout, and then Garrett Sundra at the 5. Sundra is just kind of an NPC. He doesn't play a whole lot of minutes, doesn't do a whole lot while he's out there, but he is technically the starting center. Kevin Ajit was the starting center last year, and for some reason plays less this year than last year. I don't know what's up with that. But this team, it's not rocket science. They run through Marcus Burton. It's been the case each of the last 2 years. He's pretty good at basketball. He's got 2 games this season over 30 DraftKings points. I think he's a little overpriced at $8,200 because he isn't doing a whole lot other than score right now. But man, this guy can really fill it up. 10 of 13 in his last game against Bellarmine. He's in consideration for me, but I don't know if he's going to make the pool. I'm going to kind of wait and see what happens to him on Tuesday and Wednesday if he gets a little price discount. Jalen Harrelson's a guy you got to be interested in also. Along with Marcus Burton, he's the only other player that plays more than 15 minutes a game for this team that has higher than 20% usage. And it's at 29%. So, like, this guy's going to get a ton of touches, going to get a ton of shots. He didn't play a whole lot in the opener against Long Island. Since then, he's been over 24 DraftKings points in every game. On paper, he's looking like one of the best value plays of the slate. And then I will shout out Carson Tout. He's just a rebounding machine. Double-digit rebounds in every single game. Combined 58% rebound rate, which is off the charts. But that's about all he does. Doesn't really score a whole lot, and it's kind of hard to hit value at a price tag of $7,200 if you're not scoring a whole lot. Braden Shrewsbury is the coach's kid. Plays a ton of minutes. Not super efficient. I don't know. I'd rather play Harrelson, but I definitely could see an argument for Shrewsbury at $4,700. But you know what? If everybody's playing Harrelson, no one's going to play Shrewsbury. So he might be one of those examples of a cheap DFS play where nobody plays him. And if you get lucky and he outscores Harrelson, well, then you got leverage on the field. But Harrelson definitely looks better. All right, now on the Kansas side, they have played 2 serious opponents, Duke and North Carolina, but they're not in the ACC. They've kind of had like an ACC schedule. It's kind of weird. Darren Peterson is their best player. He's out for this tournament. He's not going to be coming back. And so they have switched up their starting lineup a little bit with Peterson out. Their last starting lineup was Melvin Council at the 1, Trey White at the 2, Cole Rosario at the 3, Bryson Tiller at the 4, and then Flory Badunga at the 5. And all the starters except Rosario have all averaged at least a 22% usage rate on the season, and they've all seen a bump since when Darren Peterson got injured. So like Badunga, White, Council, and Tiller, they've all got to get consideration, honestly. Badunga is a guy I could see having a lot of success in this game. I think his size and athleticism is going to give Notre Dame issues. We saw in the game against Princeton, he put up 46 DraftKings points. He has the capability of doing that. I think $86 or $8,000, very reasonable price tag for him. Trey White's the guy that has seen the most obvious bump in fantasy points since Peterson's gotten injured. 30 against Princeton, 45 against Duke. Really filled up the stat sheet in both those games. 17 total rebounds in both those games. I'm here for Trey White at $6,500. I'm also here for Melvin Council at $5,500. 30 DraftKings points against Duke. High assist rate player, at least 4 assists in every game. I can't say enough about this starting group for Kansas. And then you've got Bryson Tiller at $5,400. Don't discount Bryson Tiller. Some of y'all will get the little reference I made there. But yeah, basically he'll give you all of him in exchange for $5,400 DraftKings salary. Another reference there. I can't believe there's a college basketball player actually named Bryson Tiller. His music I used to listen to when I was in college. And he's a pretty good player. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He may or may not shoot very poorly. He has in each of the last 2 games. But the DraftKings point totals haven't even been that bad. So I'm definitely here for him at $5,400. All right, next up, we've got St. John's taking on Iowa State. So this one's a fun one. This is the highest total of the early slate. It's 159 points. Iowa State's projected to win 80-79. On the St. John's side, they've only played one serious game against Alabama, but Rick Pitino has really been tinkering with this lineup and with his rotations. It's been a hard team to handicap. The last starting lineup they rolled out was Dylan Darling at the 1, Uzziah Sellers at the 2, and then Josen Sannon at the 3, even though those two are kind of interchangeable. Bryce Hopkins at the 4 and Zuby Ejiofor at the 5. But yet, like, two of their better players are Dylan Mitchell and Ian Jackson, and they came off the bench. It's just strange. They don't really have a true point guard. I guess Darling will be the closest thing you could see to a true point guard. In the 3 games he's played, he's had 6, 3, and 5 assists. I think he's a little overpriced at $6,100. He didn't play in the Alabama game, so we didn't get to see what he would do against competition, but he is a low-level transfer transferring up. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in him, but you got to be interested in a starting point guard on a team where they're projected to score 79 points in the game of the slate, and he's only $6,100. I've got a little interest there, only for GPPs, not because there's not really any kind of security. Zuby Ejiofor has been really good this season. For whatever reason, in the Bucknell game, he did nothing. But in the Alabama game, he had 52 DraftKings points. They really played through him in the post. He's a really good rebounder. He can rack up blocks and steals for you as well. Really like him at $8,500. I think Iowa State is going to struggle to match up with him. Dylan Mitchell, if he's coming off the bench, I don't have a whole lot of interest, but his peripheral stat rates are really, really good. Bryce Hopkins is he's starting to look more and more like the player that he was at Providence. $6,600 to me is a reasonable price tag. Keep in mind, this is a guy that was $9K when he was at Providence. So if he's able to get his role and his usage back to where it was, he could absolutely smash this price tag. And then Ian Jackson's been really hot or cold for this team, but when he's been hot, he's a guy that you had to have in DraftKings. He was a core play for me in the Bucknell game, put up 30 DraftKings points. I was very happy about that. So I'm probably going to go back to him at a salary of only $4,900. On the Iowa State side, they played one serious opponent. It's Mississippi State, so you can look at that game for what they did. Their starting lineup is Taman Lipsey at the 1, Killian Torrey at the 2, Milan Momcilovic at the 3, Josh Jefferson at the 4, and Blake Buchanan at the 5. So let's start off with Buchanan. He played 32 minutes in the Mississippi State game. That was never his profile when he was at Virginia. So the question is that the new norm for Buchanan in close games? If it is, if you told me he was going to play 32 minutes in this game, I'd play the crap out of him. But he's going to have to deal with Zuby down low. I think Zuby's a much better player. And he's going to have to stay out of foul trouble guarding Zuby. And I don't necessarily trust him to do that. So I think there's a super wide range of outcomes on Blake Buchanan there at 6,400. Heiss and Torrey and Momcilovic are kind of all off-ball, catch-and-shoot type players that may pop for a random big game, but I don't trust them at all. Really what you're looking at in this team is you're looking at Jefferson and Lipsey. They're really good. They're their two best players. They both have a usage rate north of 24% and an assist rate over 20%. When the ball's in their hands, they just make things happen. And I think that they're both really solid pay up options here on this slate. Lipsey's been over 40 DraftKings points in 3 of 4 games. These are two profiles that are really, really good, those two guys. All right, next up, we got 2 games left here on this early slate, and the next one is USC taking on Boise in Maui. USC is projected to win 79-74, according to KenPom. That is a game total of 153 points. Now, for USC, they played Troy last weekend, and it went to triple overtime. So, it's the only close game they've played, but, you can't really trust the DraftKings points totals because they got to play 15 extra minutes, right? So there's not really a whole lot to go off of with this USC team. This is a very Eric Musselman roster. And what I mean by that is there's a whole lot of guys that's oh, wait, him? And he's doing that now? He's there? It's just a whole lot of guys that you don't really think the pieces would fit together. But, individually, some are playing pretty well. It's just weird. It's a weird roster, man. It really is. Their starting lineup, they've got Rodney Rice at the 1. He was not a point guard in either of the last 2 schools he's been at. Amarian Dickerson started at the 2 in their last game. Chad Baker-Mazara at the 3. Yes, that Chad Baker-Mazara. He's on the Perry Ellis plan. He's been in college for 8 years now. Ezra Asar at the 4, and then Jacob Kofi at the 5. Terrence Williams started for the first 3 games, but ceded that spot to Amarian Dickerson. So let's go ahead and start there. Amarian Dickerson, $5,000. Like, this is a guy who was really good, could really fill the stat sheet up at Robert Morris, played 34 minutes in their last game, didn't shoot the ball particularly well, and still put up 22 DraftKings points. I'm kind of here for him, honestly. Like, I don't think that's a bad spot. After that, let's talk Ezra Asar. So Ezra Asar leads the team in usage rate, but never plays max minutes. That's always kind of been his MO when he was at East Carolina and then at Utah, was like super high fantasy point per minute player, ton of rebounding upside, ton of block shots upside, ton of scoring upside, but just never really plays max minutes. He played 28 against Troy. If you told me I was going to get 28 out of him, I'd absolutely be over him at $6,200. And I think I'm going to play him just because, like, what if, right? Like he, when you think about how could it, like, somebody break the slate in college basketball, it's very unlikely that their role changes, right? Like, what you could see is you could see minutes change, or you could see like shooting efficiency change. So like you could have a guy that has a hot shooting night and they take over a slate. But if a guy's in a role that's pretty fixed, then the only way you could see that role expand is by playing more minutes or by seeing your shots go in. And so Asar, with a big role, if he plays more minutes, he could break a slate. That's my argument for Asar and GPPs. I don't think Jacob Kofi, I think he's fool's gold. He was great in the first 3 games, only had 9 DraftKings points against Troy. Watch this guy at Virginia a lot. All he does on offense is set screens. You don't get DraftKings points for setting screens. So I'm not interested in him at $6,700. I'd way rather just play Asar. Or you could pay all the way up to Rodney Rice or Chad Baker-Mazara. They're the only 2 starters other than Ezra Asar who are above a 17% usage rate, and both are north of 23. Rice has put up at least 45 DraftKings points in each of his last 2. Baker-Mazara put up 61 against Troy and has another game of 40 against, I believe that is Manhattan. And so, yeah, I'm here for both of them. They're really expensive, but like they got to be considered as options. And to me, this slate actually has a decent amount of like good pay up options. Like starting off with Ament of Tennessee, to Darion Williams, to Lipsy and Jefferson and Zuby in the other game. Like there's a lot of good pay up options on this slate. It's gonna be really hard to narrow down that part of your player pool. Now let's go ahead and transition on over to the Boise State side. So for Boise. Oh, I will say that with Chad Baker-Mazara, you never know when he's just going to randomly fight somebody 7 minutes into a game. So, like, there's no security there. Like, don't play him in cash. Like, Chad Baker-Mazara, GPP only. On the Boise State side, their last 2 games have been close. They also lost a game to a D2 team to open the season. But, like, that game doesn't affect their advanced metrics. So it's really weird because, like, hey, like when on Selection Sunday, is that a quad 4 loss? Like, there's technically not any of them. So it's a really weird situation. Anyway, back to this game. Their starting lineup is Dylan Andrews, RJ Keene, Andrew Meadow, Javon Buchanan, and Drew Fielder. Keene is one of the cheaper starters on the slate, but he doesn't do a whole lot. He's a cardio king. I'm not really here for him. Dylan Andrews, I love. Dylan Andrews played at UCLA, always in Mick Cronin's doghouse. Now there's no Mick Cronin to have him in the doghouse. And each of the last 3 games, he's been over 21 DraftKings points. This is a really good spot for him. He hasn't really shot the ball well in any of those games either. So I think this is a really good spot for Andrews. I'm here for him at $5,200. Drew Fielder leads the team in usage rate at 27%. Only played 1 game this season above 26 minutes, and it was against Montana State. He's transferred from Georgetown. He could fill up the stat sheet there, but I don't trust him to play max minutes, and I would rather play Asar on the other side. I think Asar is a better player. Javon Buchanan really let me down in the Wichita game, but he looked really good statistically heading into that game. So take that for what it is. All right, last game of the early session. It is going to be Syracuse taking on Houston. So Houston's projected to win this one 76-65. That is a game total of 141 points. I'm going to be honest, y'all. I think I played like 1 guy going against Houston this season, and I don't think it worked out all that well. It was somebody on Auburn that I played against them. You just don't play guys against Houston, and life will be better for you. They slow the game down. They're elite defensively. They'd rather like I swear Houston's practices are probably just fist fights. They might not even play basketball. They're just really physical, really tough. You don't really score points on them. I would love to see like a full database of numbers, but the average DraftKings points for guys playing Houston has to go down about 5 from their season average, just because they're just such a tough matchup. Anyway, on the Syracuse side, the starters in their last game were Nathan George, JJ Starling, Nate Kings, Donnie Freeman, and then William Kyle. They kind of start 3-point guards with George, Starling, and Kings. I don't think this is a very well constructed roster. William Kyle has been really good so far this season. I have no trust in him to do well against Houston. And then we got to mention Kiyan Anthony. Yes, Carmelo Anthony's son. Had 2 really big games to start the season. Has kind of cooled off since. Yeah, $4,500 is a great price tag for him, but he's playing Houston, so I'm not interested. Donnie Freeman's probably their best overall player, but I'm just not interested going up against Houston, man. So speaking of Houston, honestly, I really haven't played a whole lot of guys on Houston yet this season either, and I haven't really regretted it. Their starting lineup, they play Milos Uzan as their starting point. Kingston Flemings will also play a little point as well. He's also kind of their 2. Emmanuel Sharp, 3-and-D guy. Joseph Tugler and Chris Sinek, the 2 bigs. I don't know which one you would call the 4 and which one you would call the 5. They're both bigs. Senek's basically the Juwan Roberts of this year. Kingston Flemings has been great so far this season. Really big time addition for them as a freshman, but he's really relied on really efficient shooting. He's made 8 shots and he's attempted no less than 13 in each of the last 4 games. That's super efficient. I don't trust that to continue, so I'm probably not going to play him at that salary of $8,000. Emmanuel Sharp, I'm never going to touch at $7,600. This guy's a 3-and-D guy. He's a catch and shoot player. You don't play catch and shoot players at $7,600. Tugler fouls all the time. If he ever played full minutes, he could smash a slate. Sinek, I mean, he's up and down. Uzan has not been the same this year because of the arrival of Flemings. I really think you can just cross off this entire game and be totally okay with it. All right, that does it for the early slate. Let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to break down the night slate. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show, as well as if there's ever any lineup help questions you just want to reach out to me, just feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of really good, really smart people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. College basketball is a chat that is always jumping in there. So if you're just looking for people to bounce ideas off of, talk lineups, talk strategy, it's a great place to go. And then if you're just looking to, sweat out the games and talk sports, talk college hoops, it's also a great place to go for that. Cannot recommend it enough if you're just looking for a community to be a part of where you can talk DFS. Also, if you want to know who actually makes all of my college basketball DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. We've got football-only plans, basketball-only plans, and an all-sports plan. Basically, I post my core plays for every single slate. And I don't just post a list. I also post a full write-up and article. Why? So you're not just getting the information, but you are able to, get some extra information, some extra strategy from somebody who knows what they're talking about this stuff and can hopefully help you get better at college basketball DFS. I am not going to sit here and promise you that you can just win thousands of dollars by plugging in those core plays. That's not how it works. Any website or company that does that is lying to you. But what I can guarantee is that you're going to get well-researched, well-thought-out information from somebody who knows what they're talking about with this stuff. All right, let's continue on to the night slate. Now, one more thing I forgot to add, talking about the early slate, is the feast week, the way that the scheduling works that DraftKings does. I hate it so much. It is really difficult to late swap on these slates because what DraftKings does is they set all the games to start 10 minutes earlier than their tip-off, which is the dumbest thing ever. Never has a college basketball game ever tipped off early. Right? Like because of all the games that end with intentional fouls and reviews and timeouts and let's put 0.2 seconds back on the clock. Like all the games that end like that, games never start on time. And DraftKings makes them start 10 minutes early. So it's really, really hard to late swap. Like if you're waiting on injury news, you're not going to see the team warm up by the time the game locks. So it really does force you to play conservatively or aggressively if you so choose with injury news. So that's just something to keep in mind on these slates. All right. And also, as I mentioned before, a lot of what I'm talking about on this slate is like talking about guys relative to their price tag right now. Who's to say their price tag is not going to change in a day just based off the algorithm? And if you remember 2 years ago, if you're playing college basketball DFS 2 Novembers ago, there was a Charleston Classic where Dayton's Nate Santos and LSU's Will Baker were like underpriced every single day. You could just pencil in every single lineup with Santos and Baker and just win all the money. And that's pretty much what I did. And so just keep in mind that like the pricing on these slates is going to be subject to change day by day. So definitely make sure you take a fresh look every day. All right. Anyway, Auburn and Oregon. This is the first game of the night slate taking place at the Players Era Tournament in Vegas. Auburn is favored to win 79-74 according to KenPom. That's a game total of 153 points. On the Oregon side, every game they've played so far this season has been fairly close. So like you can look at every single game they've played in order to like get the gist of who they've been playing, who they've been getting minutes, who's been getting usage. Their starting lineup in their most recent game was Jackson Shellstad, Takai Simpkins, Desdrick Lindsay. That's a tough name to say. Kwame Evans, and then Nate Biddle. So Evans and Biddle are their two bigs. They're both really, really good. Every now and then you will get Evans to just randomly pop off for a big game like he did against Oregon State. He's a GPP play for that reason. I think he's a little overpriced at $7,000 though. Biddle and Shellstad are their two highest usage players. Biddle is just a mountain of a man. He literally looks like he just came in from lumberjacking redwoods in the Oregon forest into playing a college basketball game. He looks like he could play in Timberlands. He's up there at $10,300. Really high usage player, plays a ton of minutes for a big guy, which we like. I don't think he's the best pay up option on the slate, but like he checks all the boxes, plays a ton of minutes, high usage rate, and I think it's a pretty good matchup against Auburn. Shellstad is their lead guard. He did not play at the start of the season, but in the last two games, he's been over 35 DraftKings points in both games. This is not a team I'm really interested in a whole lot of value plays on. On the Auburn side, they played close games against Bethune-Cookman and Houston, so you can kind of go by those two games to see what they're doing with their lineups. Keyshawn Hall did not play in their last game, though, which is notable because he's their best player. He's really good, y'all. Keyshawn Hall, if you did not watch any UCF basketball last year, which I do not blame you, if you did not watch any Georgia Mason basketball 2 years ago, which I do not blame you if you did not, he's really good. Really good. And when he gets back for this Auburn team, he's going to be contender for SEC Player of the Year. He was in a boot at their last game. Y'all, I'm no medical expert, but I generally think that if a guy's in a boot on Wednesday, he's probably not playing the next Monday. If Hall were to go, I would be surprised. And so what they did without Keyshawn Hall in the lineup in their last game, Tahai Pettiford was the point guard, Kevin Overton was the 2 guard, Elijah Freeman was the 3, Sebastian Williams-Adams at the 4, and then Keyshawn Murphy at the 5. Let's start there. Keyshawn Murphy is a guy that in his career has came off the bench at Mississippi State. Never a guy to play big minutes. And he really played 31 minutes against Houston, but that's probably because that game was played at a snail's pace. And it's probably because that game was a fist fight, and he'd be kind of good at that. And he's $8,400. I'm not digging the price tag on Keyshawn Murphy. He's probably not going to play more than 25 minutes. Probably going to get in foul trouble against Nate Biddle. Not really here for it. Tahai Pettiford, interestingly enough, not a great start to the season. Hasn't been over 27 DraftKings points in a game. Just hasn't had his shot fallen. Like he's pretty much the same player in terms of his rates that he was last season. And he's playing a decent amount of minutes, but he hasn't had a shot fall. Just hasn't really hit a whole lot of shots. I think that regression is going to come. I think $6,200 is a very good price tag for Pettiford, and I'm going to hop back on the train while it's at its lowest. Williams-Adams is another guy I'm interested in. He was the guy that I played against Houston because he was $4,000. He's one of their starting bigs. He's going to play a decent amount of minutes. He's not going to attempt a ton of shots. He's not a super high usage player, but he's only $4,200. He's going to start. He's going to play minutes. He can definitely put up some peripheral stats. Don't mind him as a value play here on this slate. Philip Jovich is another value play. He played a ton in the Jackson State game without Keyshawn Hall in the lineup off the bench. He was 8 for 10 in that game, though, so I don't think he's going to be able to do that again. But $3,800, if there's no Keyshawn Hall, he's definitely worth a look, in my opinion. Thing you got to keep in mind with Auburn is that there's always a potential that one of these guys could get into a fight on the plane on the way over. So that would be something to be monitoring. Next up, some of y'all will get that reference, and that's okay. We got Washington State taking on Chaminade. So if you've never heard of Chaminade, they are a Division II school in Maui that is the origin of the Maui Invitational. Believe it or not, in the 1980s, they played Virginia when they had Ralph Sampson, and Chaminade won. And so that's kind of the origin of the Maui Invitational. It was like Virginia just went over thinking they were getting a free trip to Hawaii and a free win, and Chaminade beat them. And so they've appeared in this tournament more often than not since then, just because, they're Maui's team. They're generally a free win. There's teams that they've beaten. They beat Texas one year, which was really embarrassing. But they're generally a free win in this tournament. And I think Washington State, even though I think Washington State's pretty bad, Washington State's probably going to beat them. I can't find a betting line or a KenPom line on this game because Chaminade is a Division II team. For Washington State, Thomas Thrasterson did not play in their last game. He's one of their best players for sure. This is a really, really weird team, though. I know they're going up against a Division II team, but it's really hard to get excited about a lot of these guys. Their starting lineup in their last game was Adria Rodriguez, Jerome Morton, Simon Hildebrand. Yeah, I mean, that was a typo. It's Simon Hildebrand. Nd Okafor, and then Emmanuel Ubo. And Ubo got hurt in that game 2 minutes in. And so what you did see was Emeli Yalaho, played 28 minutes off the bench, had a big-time 30 DraftKings point performance, and got a big-time price bump because of it. He's not a $5,800 player unless Ubo were to be out for this game. Nd Okafor is probably their best player if Thrasterson's out. He put up 36 DraftKings points in that last game against Southern Utah. Didn't really do anything before that, but he's a high-usage player. I would be inclined to think he's going to play a decent amount of minutes. Andre Rodriguez is their starting point guard. Not really super inspiring stat lines, though, but, he's going up against a D2 team. If you're a point guard and going up against a D2 team, you can pick up a lot of assists. They've got this freshman Ace Glass who comes off the bench, but, all he does is score $5,000. This is not a super appealing team to play guys for. You could even totally cross them out and just hope that they go super, super balanced with all the points that they score. But there is a chance that one guy could break the slate because, they are going up against Division II opponent. Speaking of that Division II opponent, let's talk Chaminade. So I did my research, y'all, on Chaminade's official website. They had some guys listed with some stats. I'm like, oh, okay, let me go see what their prices are. And none of them were here. And then I did some more digging, and ESPN had some stats, and it was all the guys that are here on this DraftKings slate, right? And I'm like, oh, cool. ESPN was right. And then I'm like, wait a minute. ESPN's stats were from 2023 and 2024. So all the guys that are listed right now, as I'm recording this, are from Chaminade's roster 2 years ago. DraftKings uploaded the wrong roster. On that roster, Thomas Reeves and Amari Arthuri were the three leading scorers, and Reeves led in rebounding and assists as well. But according to Chaminade's official website, none of those guys are playing basketball for the school anymore. The guys that are the best players now are Medina Banks, and then Kent King and Chris King, all average north of 14 points a game. But if you pay close attention, if you're watching this pretty close to after I record, none of those guys are on the DraftKings roster. So I don't know what DraftKings is going to do. Are they going to remove Chaminade? Are they going to update their roster? Are they going to remove this game? Are they going to re-upload the whole slate? I don't know. But depending on when you're watching or listening to this, the four guys for Chaminade that do all the damage are Medina, Banks, King, and King. And if you want to see what their prices are, go for it. But keep in mind, they're a Division II team that's likely going to get beat by 40. All right, next up, we got Gonzaga taking on Alabama. Gonzaga is favored to win this game according to KenPom, 87-83. That is a game total of 170 points. That is the highest on the slate by about 20 points. This is the game you want to target. You want to get a lot of players in this game. On the Gonzaga side, they have been switching up their starting lineup, but they finally figured out the lineup that I would have went with if I were Mark Few all season long. They moved freshman Mario St. Superi into the starting point guard role with Adam Miller, Tyon Grant Foster, Braden Huff, and Grant Ike as the rest of your starting five. This is their five best players. This is the lineup that they should have been going with all season long. I don't know why they haven't been. Graham Ike, Tyon Grant Foster, Braden Huff, and Mario St. Superi all have north of a 22% usage rate. They're all good basketball players, y'all. Let's start with Ike. So he's not much of a defender, but you don't need to be a good defender to score DraftKings points. Hate to break it to you. He's a guy that doesn't often play max minutes, but can. He did play 34 minutes against Arizona State. He's a good rebounder, a good scorer in the post. I like him a lot at $9,200. We saw Zuby Ejiofor of St. John just absolutely tear up this Alabama interior. We saw Trey Kaufman-Renn of Purdue absolutely tear up this Alabama interior. Love the idea of getting to EK at $9,200. If you're looking for a GPP pivot, Braden Huff could be that guy. He does not play a lot of minutes, between 20 and 25 every single game, but he's a super high usage player, super high rebounding rate while he is out there. Tyon Grant Foster was a great player at Grand Canyon the last few years. Now he's at Gonzaga. He's been a little inconsistent, but now he's in the starting lineup. So now he's going to play a lot of minutes. And I definitely am interested in him for that reason. But the guy that I'm going to be playing the most of for this team, it's probably Mario St. Superi. Was moved into the starting lineup for the last game against Southern Utah and put up 40 DraftKings points. Had 6 steals. That helps a lot. But I just watching them play against Creighton and Oklahoma, this kid's good. He's just good at basketball. He's only $6,400. I am here for it. And this is a game that's going to be played at a breakneck tempo. So I do think that, getting a point guard in this type of game environment is going to be super effective. Now on the Alabama side, they're a little harder to predict because Nate Oates is doing his thing where, oh, it's still early in the season. I'm going to see what I have with all my guys and play everybody and see if they sink or swim. Like, yeah, that's a pretty good strategy, but it's annoying for DFS, right? So their starting five recently has been Aiden Holloway, LeBaron Philon, Latrell Wrightsell, Taylor Bowen, and Aiden Sherrill. But they will play a lot of guys off the bench. Amari Allen, Hunter Mallett, and Caden Bristow all played 20 minutes or more off the bench in their last game, right? So you got 8 guys that all played a lot. Let's start off with Bristow. He's only he's only $3,700. Played 20 minutes in that Illinois game, put up 23 DraftKings points. That's over a fantasy point per minute for those of y'all that are good at math. 21% usage rate is pretty good. Combined 40% rebound rate is pretty good. I don't know what his role is going to be, but if you told me again, hey, Bristow's going to get 20 minutes again, going up against Gonzaga's front court that's not great defensively at $3,700, I'd be here for it. So he's a value play that you got to consider if you play GPPs. Aiden Sherrill is the guy that he kind of took minutes from. Did not play a lot in that Illinois game. Really let me down because I had him in a few lineups that night. And then Bo Bowen is just this really inconsistent option at the power forward spot. He's kind of supposed to be the Grant Nelson replacement, but you can't really replace Grant Nelson. Grant Nelson was a unicorn. So I think there's a wide range of outcomes on Bo Bowen. One of them is putting up 30-plus DraftKings points. And I kind of feel the same way about Amari Allen as well. Like, yeah, there's just a chance that it could be pretty good for both those guys. I prefer Allen to Bo Bowen, though. Let's talk about the guards now. So Latrell Wrightsell, he's too cheap. He's way too cheap. In the 2 of the 3 games that he's played, he's been a dud. But like, this is a catch and shoot player, and he will get peripheral stats because of how fast his team plays. And the last 2 games, he hasn't gotten a lot of peripherals and he hasn't hit his threes. So he's due for a bounce back. $4,800 is a good price tag. I think he's a really good game stack play because if Latrell Wrightsell is putting up a lot of stats, it means the game environment is taking off very likely. Aiden Holloway, I've been a fan of ever since I watched him opening night 2023, and he dropped like 25 on Baylor. Now, I know I'm like a fisherman telling the story where the fish gets bigger every time, but like, I swear to you, I was so impressed with this kid against Baylor on opening night 2 years ago when he played for Auburn. And now he's playing for Alabama. Didn't play the opener. 32, 30, and 21 DraftKings points in the 3 games since. Usage rate trending downward in each of the 3 games because LeBaron Philons has been trending upward in the 3 games. And Philon's been between 33 and 39 DraftKings points in every single game. He is an elite level scorer, big-time assist player. Love Philon, especially in this type of game environment. Philon's the guy that I'm probably getting the most of out of Alabama, but I'm definitely going to take some shots at Allen, Wrightsell, and Bristow, and maybe even Holloway. This is a team you want to target. Next up, we've got San Diego State taking on Michigan in the Players Era tournament. KenPom has this one 77-72 in favor of the Wolverines. That's a 149-point total. San Diego State, they have lost 1 close game to Troy. That's really the only close game they've played. They're another team that's really hard to get a read on because they play a lot of guys. Their starting lineup in their last game was Miles Byrd, Reese Dixon Waters, Taj DeGourville, Pharaoh Compton, and Jeremiah Oden. But I'm going to start the analysis with someone else, Magoon Guath. He was a freshman last year for them, really tall, really elite level shot blocker, could put up some huge numbers, and he did it against Troy. He put up 38 DraftKings points in 28 minutes. That's well over a fantasy point per minute. That's really good. He's good, y'all. And the only thing that worries me is that this Michigan front court is about as tough of a matchup as you could ask for. So I do think he's going to be tested in this game. What I think the most likely outcome is he has kind of a dud in this game, comes back at like 4,800 on Tuesday and absolutely smashes against some smaller team. That's what I think the likely outcome is for Magoon Guath this week. DeGourville does lead the team in usage, but he doesn't play a ton of minutes. Played 29 against Troy, but previously to that hadn't played more than 20 in a game. BJ Davis and Miles Heide will play minutes off the bench also, and both of them have fairly high usage rates. The 2 that I trust on this team to play the most and do the most are Miles Byrd and Reese Dixon Waters. Miles Byrd he's just their best player, y'all. Like, just is. Now, he's been up and down with his peripherals, been up and down with his own shooting, but he's the guy I trust.
Reese Dixon-Water is kind of the same way. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He's not the most high usage player, not the best peripheral player either. He's going to play a ton of minutes, and he's only $5,100. All right, now on the Michigan side, this is another lineup that has been super changed as the season has gone on, just because I think Dusty May is learning how to best use his players. So the starting lineup in the last game was Elliot Cadeau at the 1, Namari Burnett at the 2, Will Cheddar at the 3, which was really random, Yaxel Lindeborg at the 4, and then Merez Johnson at the 5. Roddy Gale and Ade Mara have previously started for this team. So here's the bottom line with Michigan. They've got 3 elite big men in Mara, Lindeborg, and Johnson. The only problem is none of them can shoot. So you have no spacing if you play the 3 of them together. They tried a game with the 3 of them starting together. It didn't really work. They almost lost to Wake Forest in that game. And so Dusty May has been really tactical about how he's played all 3 of them. And so what you're going to see is it's going to be very unlikely that any of the 3 of those guys play like north of 30 minutes because they're just going to be splitting minutes with each other. Now, personally, I would give more to Ade Mara than the other 2 because Ade Mara has been really effective when he's been on the floor, but Ade Mara also has had 2 complete duds and did not start in the last game. To me, he's unplayable at $9,600. Morris Johnson's the guy that I'll be getting out of the rotation because he's been the least effective over the course of the season. Yaxel Lindeborg has been really up and down, but it's been because he's been dealing with injury, but he's been over 40 DraftKings points in each of the last 2. He was a stat sheet stuffer at UAB. I'm going to trust Yaxel out of any of the 3 of them here on this slate. Like, he's going to be the one that I'm going to be playing. Cadeau is an interesting case study because he has the ball in his hands a ton. He's like the only ball handler on this team. So he has a really high usage rate, but the dude doesn't shoot the ball. He has a 17% shot rate on the season. Y'all, you can't hit value in DFS against a good opponent if you're not shooting the ball. So I'm kind of out on him at $8,000. Next up, we've got Arizona State taking on my Texas Longhorns. Texas is favored to win this game 77-71, according to KenPom. And I'm really mad at the tournament organizers for putting this game at 11:30 my time. I'm probably not staying up to watch this because it's so late. But in fairness, it is in Hawaii, so it's like 5:30 their time. Let's talk about Arizona State. So their starters are Mo Odom, Bryce Ford, Santiago Truitt, Andrea Gerbovich, and Masamba Diop. Holy cow, that is a very international lineup. Anthony Johnson's an interesting one too. He plays a lot off the bench. He has a 29% usage rate. He's going to come off the bench and he's going to take a lot of shots. Keep that in mind. He's $5,500. Mo Odom leads all the starters with 27% usage. I believe he was at Pepperdine last year, either Pepperdine or Pacific, one of those random West Coast Conference schools. And he can fill up a stat sheet. Really high assist rate. Will get rebounds for a guard. I don't think Texas is a good matchup for him, though. Texas is going to be really good defensively, especially at the guard position. I don't think this is a really good matchup for Mo Odom. Truitt is a guy that really does lead him in rebounds, really does get a ton of boards while he's out there. And then Diop is a freshman, I believe, because I don't remember him from anybody last year. Been pretty good this season, but I don't think this is the best spot going up against Texas. Because really, let's be honest, Sean Miller's Texas. This is a team built with a defensive identity, not an offensive identity. This team does not have a point guard, and they have a lot of really good defensive players who play really hard for their head coach, and they rebound the ball really, really well. They're a really good rebounding team. So I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to be really tough out in the Maui Invitational because of just the fact of how good of a rebounding team they are. They've only played one serious game so far. It was against Duke. They didn't play poorly. They ended up not covering the spread in that game, but like, hey, it's Duke. It's forgivable. They didn't have a point guard, and they're still trying to figure that part out. Nick Cody started the season for them. He did not play in their last game. And so the starting lineup in that game was Jordan Pope, Tremont Mark, Dalen Swain, Camden Heidi, and then Matas Vokatitis at the 5. I'm going to keep things simple for you. If Heidi starts again, play him again. He's a catch and shoot player, but he can get really, really hot, and he's also a pretty good rebounder. He's only $3,800. I think it would be very easy to put Heidi in your lineups. And then if we got news that Cody was playing, you could swap down to Cody because Cody would probably start over Heidi. But I do like Heidi if Cody is out. I think that's a very good value play. They also do play 3 guys off the bench pretty significantly. Kendall Weaver, Simeon Wilcher, and Lassina Traore. Weaver and Traore are like hustle players. They're not high usage guys. They could get a big DraftKings total just off of peripherals, but they're not going to do a whole lot scoring. And then let's talk about the leaders of the team. That was the bench. Let's talk about the leaders, right? So Jordan Pope and Tremont Mark have been kind of splitting point guard duties. I don't know why Sean Miller didn't go get a true point guard. So they've been meh. Like, they're not, none of them have had a good statistical season so far because they're not point guards. Like, these are guys who excel in being off the ball to on the ball scorers, right? Like coming off of a screen to get the ball in a pick and roll or get the ball in an ISO, or get the ball in a dribble handoff. These are not guys to initiate the offense from half court. So I don't know. I like Pope. I think Pope's going to be the guy from the point guard position, but Mark has definitely been the one that's had the better season fantasy-wise so far. So it's annoying. You don't have to play either of them at those price tags. The guy you probably do want to play, though, is Midas Vokietitis. He's a good international center, transfer from Florida Atlantic. I think he's going to play more minutes in a game where he can stay out of foul trouble and a game where they're going to be tested, which has not happened since Duke. In fact, in the Duke game, he was in foul trouble. So he hasn't played max minutes in a game yet. I think he could get up and put a big stat line. He's got a 28% usage rate. If he plays max minutes, he could really put up a ton of fantasy points. And then Daylon Swain is a guy that I hated on, especially when he was at Xavier, because I just didn't think he was a serious offensive player. Right? Like, he was a really good peripheral stat guy, plays with a ton of effort, like a coach's dream, right? Because he's a great rebounder, can really push the tempo on a fast break and get assists in that way, but was not an elite shooter, not an elite scorer. And he's been pretty good at scoring since he's been at Texas. The only problem is like, he's not going to be a super high usage, like on the ball player. He gets his points off of like cuts and fast breaks and catch and shoot threes. Like, he's not an isolation guy or, a pick and roll ball handler. So at $8,400, he's kind of in the Elliot Cadeau category where I think he's too expensive, but I like the overall profile. Next up, let's talk UNLV in Maryland. This is another one of the games to target on the night. This is the last game of the Players Era tournament on Monday. It's the last game of this night slate, and we're almost done with this marathon episode, y'all. So this game is projected to be 83-80 from Ken Pom in favor of Maryland. That's a total of 163 points. Let's talk about UNLV. So Laji Dembele, the Iowa transfer, has missed the last few games, and the starting lineup has been Dre Gibbs, Lawhorn. There's not a T there. Dre Gibbs, Lawhorn, Isaac Williamson, and then Howie Fleming, Kamani Hamilton, and Jacob Bannerby. So 4 of those guys, Hamilton, DGL, Fleming, and Williamson, all over 20% usage. Williamson is the one that was inserted into the starting lineup after the injury to Dembele, and he had one huge game. He doesn't do anything other than score. He's $4,400. That's a narrow pathway for a guy to hit value if he's only scoring, and he is dependent on a guy being injured to continue to start. Dre Gibbs Longhorn is their point guard, transfer from Illinois, 2 games over 40 DraftKings points. This is a big-time point total on this game. I don't mind the idea of putting him, especially in the game stack. Their best player is Kamani Hamilton, though. He is a transfer from High Point. He can really fill up a stat sheet in a hurry. I like him a lot at $6,000, and I like him a lot with this matchup for Maryland because I think Maryland is going to be a little undersized in this game. More on that in a second. And then Howie Fleming had one dud game, and other than that has been outstanding this season. High usage player, fills up the stat sheet. I like him a lot at $5,300. On Maryland, there's a whole lot of Q tags, and I think those Q tags are going to turn to O tags. They've missed Miles Rice and Pharrell Payne in their last game. Solomon Washington's yet to play this season. Miles Rice was supposed to be their best player. Pharrell Payne was supposed to be their rim protector and paint beast. And he had a very scary injury in the Marquette game, and he looks okay. He's got a chance to play in this tournament, according to everybody who has sources. I don't know if he will. I have a lot of interest in him if he does, but I'm not counting on it. Anyway, their starting lineup with the absence of those guys was Diggy Coit, Andre Mills, Darius Adams, Elijah Saunders, and Colin Metcalf. Metcalf played 15 minutes in that game. Has not put up more than 11 DraftKings points in the season. Probably not super interested in him. Isaiah Watts played 37 minutes in that game. Didn't really do a whole lot scoring, but he does enough in the peripherals that he can put up stats in a hurry. But $4,700 is a little expensive because he doesn't have the ball in his hands a lot. Among the guys that started, Adams and Mills were pretty good in that game. Mills had 25 DraftKings points. He's too expensive at $7,200 though. Adams I like a lot at $6,300, but actually I take that back. I'd like him a lot at 5,300. I don't really like him at 6,300. He's just a little expensive. He's a pretty good player though. But Diggy Coit's the guy you got to be looking out for. So he transferred from Northern Illinois to Kansas, and it didn't really work out at Kansas. And last game with no Miles Rice, no Pharrell Payne, he had to carry the offense against Mount St. Mary's, and he put up 41 points. He's the guy that's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, going to get to the line a ton. I like him at $7,600 in this type of game environment. He's going to be the guy that's going to be asked to carry their offense. All right, that is going to do it for the Monday, November 24th, kickoff of Feast Week, college basketball DFS slates for both the main and or the early and the night slates, I guess you could call it. Either way, we broke down both slates, all 13 games. So we gave you guys all the information you need to know in order to build some winning lineups here on these two slates, as well as the rest of Feast Week, because like I said, we're going to see all these teams again. So hopefully we gave you guys all the information you're going to need to know to keep building successful lineups for the rest of the week. We'll probably be back on here with another college basketball preview at some point this week. But, college football is still going on. I've got other stuff going on. I'm coaching high school basketball now. So definitely a busy season for me. So, we'll get to what we can get to. But, if you're subscribed to the channel, you will know when everything drops. Remember, if you want more from me, you can follow me on Twitter. You can join the Fantasy Corner Discord, or you can check out the core plays on the Patreon. That is going to do it here for this episode, y'all. Hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need to know to build some winning lineups. Hopefully, like me, you guys are looking forward to this week, looking forward to this slate. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point. Best of luck to you guys on this Monday slate, and I will see you guys next time.